Under 10,000 lanterns, I shouted what I'd been whispering to my heart for weeks. The Peng festival was everything the smaller lantern celebration had promised to be, magnified 100-fold. Thousands of people had gathered in the field outside Meizhou University, families and couples and groups of friends all carrying lanterns that would soon fill the sky like earthbound stars. The air hummed with excitement and anticipation. Vendors sold everything from traditional Thai sweets to flower garlands, and somewhere in the distance, monks chanted blessings for the night's wishes. I stood at the edge of the crowd, clutching my own unlit lantern and feeling like my heart might beat out of my chest. 4 days had passed since our fight at the cafe. 4 days of stilted text messages and careful politeness when Cayman picked me up for our planned activities. 4 days of pretending we were just tour guide and tourist again, when every moment felt like we were both holding our breath. "You came," Cayman said, appearing beside me with his own white lantern. "You asked me to. I wasn't sure you would." The distance between us felt enormous despite the fact that we were standing close enough to touch. Everything about our body language was careful, polite, nothing like the easy intimacy we'd shared just a week ago. "Cayman, about the other day." "Don't," he said quietly. "Not yet. Can we have tonight first? Before we figure out the rest of it?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Because tonight was my last night in Chiang Mai. Tomorrow I would spend the day packing and saying goodbye to Malay. The day after that I would be on a plane back to Seattle, back to a life that felt impossible to imagine after everything that had happened here. "The official release is at 11, Cayman said, checking his watch. "But people start lighting their lanterns around 10:30. And what happens until then? We wait. We watch. We try not to think too hard about what we're wishing for. But I already knew what I was wishing for. I'd known since the moment I woke up that morning with the crushing realization that I had less than 48 hours left in Thailand. The question was whether I was brave enough to make that wish out loud. We found a spot on a small hill that gave us a good view of the main gathering area. Around us, families were setting up blankets and picnics, couples were taking selfies with their lanterns, groups of friends were laughing and sharing bottles of something that definitely wasn't water. The atmosphere was festive, magical, exactly the kind of once-in-a-lifetime experience that travel blogs and guidebooks promised. But all I could focus on was the careful space Cayman was maintaining between us, the way he kept his hands to himself, the way he looked at everything except me. "I've been thinking," I said when the silence became unbearable. "About what?" "About what you said. About this not being real life." His jaw tightened. "Ryan. Let me finish. Please." I took a shaky breath. "You're right. This isn't real life. Real life is messy and complicated and full of practical problems that love can't solve. Real life is work visas and different time zones and the fact that your grandmother makes the best pad thai in Chiang Mai and mine burns water. So you agree with me?" "No," I said. "I don't. Because you're also wrong. I gestured between us, around us, at the magical impossibility of the night. "This is the most real thing I've ever experienced. More real than any job I've ever had, more real than any relationship I've ever been in, more real than anything I thought I wanted before I met you." Cayman was quiet, his lantern spinning slowly between his hands. "And maybe that's terrifying," I continued. "Maybe it's scary as hell to love someone this much after 2 weeks. Maybe it's insane to consider rearranging my entire life for someone I met at an airport. But you know what's scarier? The idea of getting on that plane and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. What if what? What if we could make it work? What if love really is enough, even when it's complicated? What if the risk is worth taking?" The first lanterns were beginning to rise in the distance, early releases from people too excited to wait for the official time. Points of light drifted upward like slow-motion fireworks, and I felt something settle in my chest that had been restless for days. "I want to try," I said quietly. "I want to try to make this work, whatever that looks like. Long distance, visits back and forth, me applying for visas to stay longer, I don't care. I just want to try. Ryan. I know it's not practical. I know there are 1,000 reasons it might not work. But there's one reason it might, and that's enough for me." "What reason?" "I love you." The words came out steady and sure, no hesitation, no doubt. "I love you and you love me, and maybe that doesn't solve everything, but it's a place to start." Cayman closed his eyes, and I saw his hands tremble slightly around his lantern. "You don't understand what you're asking," he said. "You don't understand what it would mean trying to build something across that kind of distance. Then explain it to me. Help me understand. But don't give up on us without giving me a chance to prove that I'm not art hit." That I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to go. And if I can't handle it? If the uncertainty drives me crazy? If I end up resenting you for making me hope? Then we deal with that when it happens. But we don't preemptively break our own hearts because we're scared of what might go wrong. The official countdown began somewhere in the distance, voices calling out numbers in Thai and English. Around us, people were lighting their lanterns, testing the hot air that would carry their wishes skyward. 10, Cayman said quietly, lighting his candle. 9, I replied, following his lead. 8. His voice was barely above a whisper. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Together, we released our lanterns into the night sky, watching them join thousands of others in a constellation of hope and dreams and wishes too precious to speak aloud. The sight was breathtaking, magical, the kind of moment that makes you believe in possibilities you'd never considered before. But I barely saw it, because Cayman was looking at me instead of the sky, and there were tears on his cheeks. I'm scared, he whispered. Me too. What if we can't make it work? What if we can? He laughed, a sound somewhere between joy and desperation. You're never going to stop asking that, are you? Probably not. Good, he said, and then he was kissing me right there in front of thousands of people, under a sky full of floating lights and wishes. Kissing me like he was drowning and I was air, like he was lost and I was home, like he'd finally decided that maybe, just maybe, love really was worth the risk. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, I rested my forehead against his. Is that a yes? I asked. That's a yes to trying, he said. A yes to seeing what happens when two idiots decide that love might be enough after all. Even though it's terrifying? Especially because it's terrifying. Around us, the night sky blazed with light, thousands of lanterns carrying thousands of wishes into the darkness. But I didn't need to make a wish anymore. Everything I wanted was right here, in this moment, in the way Cayman was looking at me like I'd just offered him the world. I love you, I said again because it felt important to say it under the magical sky, surrounded by the dreams of thousands of people who believed in the power of wishes and hope and the possibility that sometimes, if you want something badly enough, the universe might just give it to you. I love you too, he replied. God help us both, but I love you too. We stayed until the last lantern disappeared into the night, until the crowds began to disperse and the vendors started packing up their stalls. We stayed until it was just us and the memory of magic and the promise we'd made to each other under a sky full of light. Tomorrow we would start figuring out the practical details. Visa applications and job searches and the logistics of loving someone across 8,000 miles. Tomorrow we would face the reality of what we just committed to. But tonight we walked back to Cayman's truck hand in hand, drunk on possibility and the knowledge that sometimes, just sometimes, the craziest risks pay off in ways you never imagined. So, Cayman said as we drove through the quiet streets of Chiang Mai. What now? Now we figure it out, I said. Together. Together, he agreed, and the words sounded like a promise, like a prayer, like the beginning of everything I'd never known I wanted. In my pocket, the silver bracelet he'd given me caught the light from passing street lamps, the tiny lantern charm a reminder of the night we decided to bet everything on love and hope and the radical idea that some things are worth fighting for, no matter how impossible they seem. My flight was still tomorrow. But it wasn't goodbye anymore. It was see you soon.